Okay, so we're live now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Veg 101. Today we're going to be talking about vegan wine, and feel free to leave all of your questions in the comments below. We'll be checking those throughout. And just to introduce ourselves, I'm Lainey, the Festival and Events Coordinator, and I'll pass it over to you two to introduce yourself with everybody.
Sure. Hey, everybody, and hi, Lainey. Thanks for chatting with us today. I'm Priya, and this is Jen.
Hi.
Jen is a master sommelier, and I'm a vegan, and we've partnered on the Social Herbivore to bring vegan food and wine, kind of make that something that is now cool because nobody ever talks about pairing wine with vegan food. So luckily I found Jen, and she's super interested in that area of the world. So that's what we're doing, elevating plant-based pairings.
Yeah, that's right. When you look at wine historically and all of the pairings, they're all around meat. And so when we really, we kind of got together and we're chatting about this, I find it super interesting to find those elevated matches where the wine tastes better and the food tastes better and everything's just kind of magic with a plant-based diet.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun doing our research.
Yeah, I can imagine. Probably very tasty too.
Yeah. And sometimes not so tasty if you get the wrong match.
Yes.
I can imagine that. Yeah, like some experiments don't work out as well, but
exactly.
Yeah, no, fun nonetheless. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess just jumping right in from that, the common kind of like connection between like non-plant-based foods and wine, and how it's flipping that around to plant-based food and wine combinations. Is there like something specific that makes a really good food combination with a wine, like a plant-based food combination with a wine, like something that's like super salty or something that's like super like, I don't know why chewy is coming into my head. That is not, I'm like trying to think of like other like tastes and stuff, and I was like, that is not a good characteristic, I think, for a pairing, but along those lines.
Yeah, there's lots to consider when you're pairing. And I think what Jen has found super interesting is that it's different from trying to pair meat-based foods, because the weight of the foods are sometimes a lot less. So I'll let Jen talk about the principles of pairing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a pretty complex subject, truthfully. But yes, things do change. The same principles apply to matching food and wine, whether it's plant-based or not. However, plant-based food is different. So when you look at it, of course, the fats are different, the proteins are different. As Priya was talking about, the weight and the texture and the density, the chewiness that you're talking about, all of those things do come into play, as well as umami and as well as cooking preparation. So what we found a couple of tried and true wines that seem to really work with almost everything that is vegan. So for us, we really love Gamay. So Gamay from Beaujolais, Gamay from here in Ontario. Pinot Noir seems to be a red grape as well, another red grape like Gamay. That's a really great go-to. And
which is a shocking one in a way, because Pinot Noir is such a good meat pairing wine, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Pinot Noir can do salmon, and it can do all kinds of, everything from, I guess, birds and everything. But with Pinot Noir, it really works as well because it's got that acid. And what we're avoiding with both of those grapes is really high tannin. So tannin is the thing that dries out your mouth. It's the really kind of astringent component of red wine. And what we're finding is that can be a little bit tricky to work with plant-based food.
Yeah.
But we found a couple of things that do work as well, which is really fun. If you do like those big, heavy, dense, chewy reds like Cabernet Sauvignon or Syrah, a dense Merlot, wines with lots of tannins like a Brunello or Barolo, we're finding that if you do certain cooking techniques, so think about smoking, roasting, grilling, things like that, can really kind of help counter those tannins. And also adding a little bit of salt. Salt's your friend with tannin. So amp up the salt level if you really want to have those big heavy reds.
And you know what's funny is that when we were talking about weight and the texture in your mouth, here's a great example, because I have a friend who stayed at my vegan Airbnb, Tara. So she's not vegan. Her and her family are not vegan, but they were totally happy to be on the vegan diet for, you know, the weekend that they were there. And she had some of the Beyond burgers and Beyond sausages, and she said she loved them, and it made her stomach feel a lot better. She said, my stomach was very happy. My mouth was missing the fat. So that, to me, was really interesting, because I would think that people would be happy that it wasn't so fatty, but you know, just kind of interesting that vegan foods, even the faux meats like the Beyond Meat sausages and stuff, they just don't have that kind of weight and density and oiliness that meats can have. So it does change how you pair things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, what has been one of our go-to whites?
Our go-to whites has been, we really love Pinot Grigio or Pinot Gris, depending on where it's grown, same grape. Tends to be incredibly versatile as well. And we love rosé. I mean, well, we just love rosé also.
Very good for the summer.
Very totally.
But it actually works with so many plant-based foods as well. So that's been a go-to. And bubbles, you know, sparkling wine can be surprisingly versatile with food, and we generally tend to think of it as an aperitif. So something before you're even getting into eating, but we have had great success with sparkling wine and food.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Because also when I think of like a sparkling wine and stuff, you usually want like something that's kind of like I guess like fattier, like something. It just fell outside. Okay. But something that's like fattier to like cut that fat, is that not necessarily creamy? Yeah, that's another good one. Like, is that not necessarily a must with it? Like, so it goes well with like really fresh tastes as well. Like really, like I'm thinking like a salad or something like that.
100%. And you'll probably get some kind of fat in there somewhere, whether it's coming from, you know, the nuts, for examples, whether it's coming from avocado, whether it's coming from coconut, whether it's coming from the olive oil or different types of oil that have been added in. Like generally you're going to get some richness from something else. And of course, you know, you are right. Also deep fried anything with bubbles. And so that goes to plant-based too. I mean, French fries, you know, chips.
I was just thinking, I was like, ooh, French fries and like sparkling wine to elevate any meal.
Why not? Exactly. You can make any meal festive, you know. Bubbly is not just for special occasions.
Yeah, no, I love, I just love sparkling water in general. So that's always something, like anything that's got like bubbles in it. Oh yeah, no, sparkling.
I feel like that just goes with your personality, Lainey, because I've known you from doing some events with the association, and you're just a bubbly personality, so it makes sense that you like bubbles.
I guess that's why it's just all of the carbonation. Well, I guess not in the case of wine, but yeah. Oh, we've actually got a question from Jason as well. That works nicely too. Any organic or biodynamic recommendations for wines? And maybe that's also a good segue to talk about organic wines versus like biodynamic and what that means. And then also where vegan wines fit into that, just that whole kind of like labeling or like a categorization of wines.
Yeah, I'll let Jen get into the more specifics, but you know, there's a lot of categories of what we kind of group under the term earth-friendly wine. So there's natural, there's organic, there's sustainable, there's biodynamic, and then there's vegan. And none of the first four automatically are vegan. So you might think that something that is organic should be vegan because it sounds so natural, but it's not. And biodynamic is the most interesting one in that category, because although a lot of biodynamic wineries are vegan, there are some aspects, some preparations, they call them, in biodynamics, which is, you know, it follows the phases of the moon, and I like to call it witchcraft because they do a lot of interesting things. But there's cow horn preparation number 5. What is it?
I don't know the number, but
think
yeah, there's many preparations.
Yeah, but this one is just where they bury a cow horn full of manure into the soil, and it's supposed to kind of be good. Yeah, exactly. See your face there?
Cool. Yeah, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess it like fertilization. Yeah.
Yeah, and some vegans would be offended by that. It might not be vegan enough for them, right? So there's different aspects, there's different levels, I guess, of veganism. But Jen can quickly break down maybe organic and the other categories too.
Well, to answer, I think it was Jason's question, I really like Southbrook. They are here, they're local, they have been doing organics for a very long time. They do it very well. Really dynamic winemaking team there. So definitely check out Southbrook. And yeah, so okay, let's break down all of these terms. What do they mean? So we've got biodynamic. This was started back in the early 1900s. It's not just a way of farming, it's a whole philosophy of life. And it's all about incredibly low intervention, but also utilizing, I guess, organic practices, and also following things like the moon cycle and things like this, right? So there would be certain days which you could prune or which you could harvest, or it's all of this. It's all about, I guess, I like the philosophy. I think it's kind of beautiful. It's all about being in line and in tune with the earth, with Mother Earth. They are not they are not vegan friendly, depending on, again, as Priya said, how vegan do you want to be, because there are some preparations and things where animals are used in the vineyard in production. But they certainly kind of follow an organic principle and way of life, if you will. So then we have organics, which are pretty stringent, and they just refer to the plot of land, right? So organics for the most part, unless it's also organically made, but organically grown is really about that vineyard and what's happening there. And it really has to do with more of what you're not putting into it. So, you know, herbicides, pesticides, or GMOs would be a no-no. Okay. And then that's kind of as far as it goes. Again, you could do organically, not just grown, but made wine. And of course, every country has its own certification for that. So it can changes.
Get super complicated.
It's very complicated. Like in the States, they're not allowed any sulfur. So a lot of winemakers, while they might make, you know, organic grapes or grow organic grapes, they're not going to use the certification because it's too limited, they find. Then you have a certification called sustainable. So we actually have the Malivore here from Ontario, and you can see there is a sustainable certification right here, this little green guy.
The green leaf?
Yeah, the green leaf.
Yeah.
And we love sustainable wines because they really talk about the entire business model of a winery. So it's what goes on in a vineyard. But it's also, you know, is it the best packaging to ship? Are we treating our neighbors well? Are we treating the people that work for us well? Yeah. And so it's a much bigger overarching, I guess, certification and philosophy to have. And they are, like organics and biodynamics, third-party certified. So you have to meet the criteria as well to be sustainable. So this is really cool. And then what am I missing? I've got
natural, but that's natural. It's whole other thing.
Yeah. You know? You can imagine natural is au naturel.
Yeah.
Basically.
Really hands off.
So a lot of times if you love like beer, you would probably like real natural wine because there's no sulfur. nothing added in, so they can get, you know, very funky,
Yes.
shall we say.
Good term. Good term.
Got it.
And then we have vegan.
And then we have vegan. So you can see this little V symbol here on this bottle of wine for vegan.
And is that specific for vegan wines, like a vegan wine certification?
There are
that
a few.
symbol?
There are a few. For example, Carlo Estates, which is right in Prince Edward County, and they're the first vegan certified at least in North America. They have the Vegicert. So that's one of the big certifications, but there are no governing bodies for vegan certifying, you know, companies. So there are a couple of different organizations that do it, but Vegicert is one of the most common, I would say.
Yeah, they have one in the UK, right? And so that one also certifies your food also.
Yeah.
So yeah, the certifications, at least in North America, aren't necessarily where you have third party coming in, auditing you like intense, insane. At the same time, I feel like most people would not go through the trouble of putting vegan friendly a symbol on their wine if they weren't. I would feel like most people would be pretty good
honest about it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's being advertised on the label.
For sure. And just to quickly summarize, because I know this conversation itself can get so complicated about the different categories, but in terms of what makes wine vegan or not, and why none of those other categories are necessarily vegan, is because again, it depends on how vegan you want your wine, because you could be talking about the glue on the labels or the wax on the seal of the cork. But for us, in terms of what's in the bottle, a lot of wineries traditionally have used, as Jen says, things around the farm to clarify the wine so that it's not cloudy looking, right? So to bind the proteins or particles that are in the wine, things like casein, oxblood, fish bladder, egg whites. So vegan wines use vegan alternatives, vegan-based gelatins and bentonite clay and diamascus earth and different things to clarify. So that's what vegan wine means.
Got it. Yeah, because I know that's always like I'm thinking of Guinness when they announced that they were going to like be using a vegan alternative, and then seeing, I guess, like online and stuff that there was the conversations about, like they use like a fish bladder or something, but how things can kind of get all mixed together when you're looking at a bunch of different articles on the internet. So when you think about it, you're like, what would you like? Why would you need that? But again, just because of like the processing and everything, it makes a bit more sense. And then to think like, so it uses like a vegan alternative to that. Yeah, it just, I think it's interesting. Even the processing of the wine. Like for me, I was like, you just like squish some grapes and let them sit in a barrel. There's a lot more that goes into it than just letting it sit and turn into wine.
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot too, like for me, when you guys were explaining all of the different variables that could potentially go into making a wine vegan or things that would need to be considered, I was thinking a lot about like clothing or even cosmetics. How, I guess, cosmetics, just because we like spoke about this was one of our topics like several weeks back, and the difference, comparing cruelty-free versus vegan cosmetics, and how cruelty-free cosmetics aren't always necessarily vegan, because that's focused on whether or not the product's animal or tested on animals or not. So
but all the ingredients in it might not be vegan. I know it gets so complicated. That's why, again, when we talk about vegan wine, for the most part, we talk about what's in the bottle and not what's on the bottle or even what might happen in the vineyard. Like some vegan wineries, for example, Corcibella in Italy, they're ultra vegan. They won't even use manure in their fields.
Wow.
Whereas a lot of people might think, well, manure is a natural waste from an animal, so we're not using the animal per se, but there's lots of different levels and it can get really complicated, but also super interesting to see how many different levels of veganism there can be.
Mhm. Have I guess like if somebody wants to reach out to a winery and ask them if they are or aren't vegan, have you like found wineries being fairly receptive, or would you like encourage people to do so just to, I guess, be more informed about what they're consuming?
This is one of the biggest problems in buying wine, is that it is so hard to know what wines are vegan. And there is that fabulous resource Barnivore, which props to the Toronto couple who founded it, woot woot Toronto. And it covers all the world, and they cover other drinks other than just wine. We have launched a database or a directory for specifically Ontario wineries, and now we're expanding to BC because we really think it's important to support local farmers, the people in our own backyard, and especially during the last few months when people wanted to really support local and you couldn't really leave their homes. So we are trying to make it easier to find vegan wines, because even when we are trying to hold an event or a dinner and go to the LCBO to look for wines, it's impossible. It was Jen looking at a bottle and saying, this is a good one, and me frantically trying to search on Barnivore. But if they're not listed on Barnivore, trying to just search on Google is, domain to such and such vegan friendly.
Yeah.
It's so hard, but more and more wineries are seeing the demand for it. So It's been very rewarding to see just how many we have right here in Ontario. It's really great.
Yeah. And when they do this, it helps.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Definitely.
Yeah. But that's why we tried to compile this, this list, like I said, a directory, so you can just look it up quick and see if you're planning a road trip out to the county or out to Niagara who qualify.
Yeah. And is it available, or like can people access it online?
Oh yeah.
Or
the directory is just on our website, socialherbivore.co / Ontario Vegan Wineries. You'll see it right on our website. So it's easily accessible, and we're adding wineries to it all the time because we're constantly going out to taste and in touch with all the different wineries. So that list is going to grow and grow, and we're really happy that there are more and more wineries. Because I have to say, like 2 wineries that we visited last year, Clauson Chase in the county and then Taw's out in Niagara, both of them decided to become VegaCert certified after our visit because they acknowledged that more people are demanding, like the consumers want vegan friendly wines. They want to know that wineries are more earth friendly and that they shouldn't need any animal products in it. So it's really great to see that list growing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I can link it in the comments down below so people can check it out and see, I guess, recognize maybe some of the stuff that they're drinking already, or just keep an eye out next time they're in the LCBO or in the Niagara region going on a wine tour or whatnot.
Online, you can, a lot of wineries are allowing smaller purchases to order online. A lot of times it's like you buy a case, but now you can definitely just order online, get some friends together and get a bunch of, stock up.
That's a really great idea, actually. Yeah. Because I know usually, it's like a case of 12 and you're like 12 bottles, like, but even if it's a smaller quantity or you just split it with people.
Totally.
Yeah. And then, so I know you mentioned then there is like the BC directory too, that is coming in the future. Is that something that you guys will be working on, or is it like, other contacts in BC who are like in the vegan wine movement there?
No, that's going to be on our site too, but we have somebody in Vancouver, well, not in BC anyways, who's helping put that together for us. Yeah.
Is it like, are there a lot of BC wines that are, well, I feel like it's probably yes, the answer to this question, but like a lot of vegan BC wines that are only available in BC, or would there be like potential for them to be like shipped to Ontario if someone finds something and they want to, like, I guess, try something really new?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because it can be a little bit hard for us to actually get BC wine here, surprisingly enough. You can find a few at the LCBO now and again, but there's been this invisible trade barrier. And I would say that a lot of BC people are really supportive also of BC wine. So a lot gets sold out there. Now, there has been seemingly a loosening of this invisible border between Ontario and BC. And so I think it's going to be a lot easier for folks to order and for it to be shipped across border as well. So I think we'll start to see a lot more BC wine, which is really exciting. It's a very different climate than here. So things that excel there don't necessarily excel here in Ontario, and vice versa. So the big heavy reds are really good from out west, where we do better with the fresh high acid reds, for example, because of our climate differences. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm excited also to find out who is vegan friendly in BC. It's still a mystery to even us.
Yeah.
So through this experience, we'll again acquire a really great list of who would be friendly out there, vegan friendly.
Yeah, we're excited to taste them all.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, that's really exciting. I never knew that there was that barrier. Now that I think about it, I guess, yeah, a lot of the times it's like, oh, Californian wines, like Ontario. Yeah, now that I think about it, like obviously BC, it's known for its wine, but like I can't think of any off the top of my head that like,
Right.
Interesting. Is there anywhere else in Canada that has like I guess like the ability to grow wine grapes, or is it pretty much just like Ontario and BC for the most part?
Well, those are the two biggest regions right now, but you can also find some great sparkling wines from Nova Scotia. So right around the Bay of Fundy, they make great sparkling wines. They have some really cool kind of local hybrid grapes that do really well work, that can grow and sustain out in that more maritime climate. And Quebec is dipping their toe into winemaking as well, but it's still very young and cottage kind of industry in Quebec. And we don't really see much of anything over here in Ontario from them yet. There's no real production yet.
Yeah, and this is kind of off topic, but a lot of people shy away from Ontario and Canadian wines because they're expensive. They seem more expensive than stuff you can find from California or even from Europe. And that's because we're such a young wine region, right? We haven't been doing it for hundreds of years. So a lot of those wineries are still recouping their costs of planting the vines and, just building on the land and all. I would really encourage people to try a lot of the wineries here, because they do have lower end wines as well, starting in the upper teens and then going up from there. So give Ontario a chance, because there are some really, really, really great wines here, and there's budget for everybody.
Yeah, I remember there was a wine tour. Oh, I wish I could remember what the winery was, but I can't remember it. But one thing that they mentioned was about, or like they talked about how it is like wine, like it's newer in Ontario or just like Canada in general, and how it takes decades to like really, I guess, like not like get into the groove of things, but it's not something that you can like start a winery and be up and running next year. Like it's very like it's a long time investment. And that I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. That makes a lot of sense, especially if like there's a year where the weather is very poor and it like impacts your crop or something like that. So yeah, that was really interesting.
It's not like a brewery, right? You could pretty much open up a brewery in a month if you had enough money. You can't open up a winery and expect to be selling wine in a month if because you got to plant those vines. They got to grow the grapes. They're not going to grow grapes in 1 year, not good quality grapes. So it takes time.
Yeah, I think it's like 3 to 5 years before you get the first harvest off of the grapes alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's it.
When you think about the investment, there's a lot of like labor involved. So there's a lot of, hours of physical work involved in making a wine. And then yes, very nail biting, because it's an agricultural product that really is affected by each year, each vintage. So if you get hail or frost or all kinds of other problems, you could be in trouble.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's complicated, it's complex, but it's also so interesting. And I'm so excited to see where we have come as a wine region here in Ontario. I think we've come so far in the last 15 years. The wine quality is so high. So I would agree, support local, and you can find things from $12 and up, really.
Yep.
Are there any, I guess, like kinds that you would recommend people check out in that, I guess, either like lower or higher, or just kind of like notable mentions that
Do you
people
mean
should?
wineries or specific wines?
Let's do like specific wines, like specific bottles, if that's something, I guess.
Offhand, like in the lower range,
I think if the Almanac from the
Yes.
Grange in Prince Edward County was really interesting and good value.
Yep.
So I really like them. I think that Taz also, and I'm sorry, I don't know the specific names, but they kind of have their vineyard tier where they're like single vineyards, but this would just be more of their entry level kind of, you know, would be really, really good as well. We are offering with Two Sisters actually 4 bottles of wine and a cheese package, and Two Sisters is quite premium. They make some amazing wine. Don't get me wrong, they're worth the money. But we have, we're doing a bundle with them, and we've got 4 of their wines that aren't, you know, $50 range, which is really cool. I would say,
you know, Carlo has some lower end stuff too. That's sort of in the, like their rosé is really delicious for summer, and I believe it's under $20 or just around the $20 mark. And also in the county, Harwood Estates makes a red and a white blend that is under $20, and I believe they're both available at the LCBO, but I could be mistaken, but they're really great. So there's lots of options.
Flat Rock has a lot under $20. That is bang on.
Yeah. Cave Springs has a great rosé that is at the LCBO and under $20, and it is delicious. I mean, you could squash a bottle of that easy. You know, easy.
Yeah, no, always when that happens and you're like, oh, is there like what's like, is this like actually wine? Like this is so good. Yeah, no.
So easy.
Yeah. That's really awesome though. So many different kinds, and as well, like it can be kind of intimidating sometimes going in and like looking for something new, but like so many options, and then again the directory, so just trying new stuff and finding
try new
what
stuff.
you like.
I know that people like to stick to what they know, because believe me, I'm a Pinot Grigio girl. I look at a wine list at a restaurant, and you know, before I knew anything about wine, I would just say, I'll take the Pinot Grigio in summer, and in winter I would always just take like the Malbec, because I knew typically what I was going to get. They're pretty easy drinking, you know, they're fruitier, they're more approachable to somebody who's newer to wine. But it's kind of like, you wouldn't go see the same movie at a theater every time. Like you might watch it at home again a year later, but you want to see new movies all the time, right? So you want to try different wines just because there's so much to try out there, and then go back to your favorites. You can always go back to your favorites. Yeah.
And the worst that can happen is it's not your favorite, and
you freeze it and use it in cooking. Don't throw it away.
Oh.
You can do lots of things with it.
That's a good, I've never thought about freezing wine.
Yeah, I always freeze leftover wine in ice cube trays so that it's small doses, because you don't often need a lot of wine, and how else would you freeze it? But you freeze it into ice cubes, and then if you need a tablespoon or so, it's just easy. So that's what I always do with leftover wine, if there's leftover wine.
Good cooking hack. That's such a good idea. This is like so random, but I like hot peppers. There was like this big bag that I got, and then my roommate, she was saying how they just like throw them in the freezer and then use them when they need them, and I was like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense.
Exactly. And I just want to mention too that package that Jen was talking about, because that's 3 Ontario-based businesses, all female-owned, which is super cool. Two Sisters Winery, and then Wandering Deli, who make amazing vegan cheeses. You've tried them. You've had them at Veg Fest and all over. Yeah, Kira is a good friend, and she makes she's always experimenting with her flavors and her textures, which is what I love. And she's made a couple of cheeses exclusively for us for this summer bundle, and we just had the best time at Two Sisters tasting them and finding the perfect wine to go with it. So it's such a great bundle you can get because it supports the Toronto Vegetarian Food Bank, and they're our charitable partner in everything we do. So a portion of everything we do goes to support their work. And it's just fun, you know, you can get 8-10 of your friends together for the long weekend and pick up this bundle and, you know, support some good causes.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking, like, oh, it would be like really nice for a picnic, just like easy to be socially distanced. And yeah, no, that's like, yeah, pretty good deal. Is it available for purchase on your website then, or through like Wandering Deli and Two Sisters as well?
It's all through our website, and that's you'll find it. There's wine and cheese market at socialherbivore.co. And I think the deadline for ordering is the 24th, because then we'll deliver on the 29th in time for the August long weekend. But it's a fun thing because people often talk about trying to do a wine tasting at home, you know, or how do I know what wine goes with what cheeses? And this is a really fun way to experiment. Like, we give you the menu of our pairings and why they work, but you can mix and match and just say, maybe I like this better, or, you know, it's just a fun thing to do with friends.
Yeah. And it makes it easy as well. You know, it's all vegan. So
yes.
Yeah, don't even have to think.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I can share that link in the comments as well. So make it easy. People can check that out and get it before the 24th so that it arrives at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, is there anything else that people should, I guess, look forward to that you guys are doing? I know there's Tara, if people want to book, or are you taking bookings right now?
Yeah, that's my vegan Airbnb out close to Prince Edward County. It's booked till the end of August, but it is open after that, and it's just a great place. And sometimes, you know, we're thinking of doing some weekends of wine and food experiences, so that might be happening in the fall winter months when there's less to do outside, less vineyards to go and frolic in. And also follow us, because we do pairings and we post them on our Instagram, and we're working on the world's first vegan food and wine pairing book. So we're constantly kind of trying to experiment with different things. But you can follow us at Social Herbivore. So yeah, I think, what else are we up to?
Well, we will, 2 fingers crossed, be able, hopefully, to have our annual vegan wine, basically taste and buy party, which is kind of a holiday party. It's a dress up theme.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of delicious vegan food and cheeses and charcuterie and cupcakes and all kinds of wineries, and it's just a really fun night out. So we're hopeful that is going to be happening this year, and it would be closer to the end of November, beginning of December. It's kind of a holiday, holiday fun dress up.
Such a fun dress up thing. We had over 80 vegan friendly wines last year, so a lot of different wineries. So if you're constantly worried about how to find your vegan wines, that's a great place to come and see wines from around the world.
Yeah, I was just going to say that probably extends beyond Ontario in that case, that's really fun. Again, super easy too. You can go and just try whatever too. You don't have to think.
And if you've got more questions, you know, always ask us on Instagram or on our Facebook page, because we love to help people know and learn more about vegan wines, and just to know that all wine is not vegan. So you might think you're drinking your vegan beverage, but shocker, it was the shock for me when I discovered that it wasn't necessarily vegan. So ask us questions. We're always happy to answer. She's got all the answers. I will just direct her to answer most of them, but I can answer some too. So anytime you have questions.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And yeah, and I'll put the links that I mentioned before below. And yeah, if anybody also has other questions, if they're watching this later, to keep or like to put them in the comments below too. And yeah, keep an eye out for those. Yeah. Alrighty. I think that's pretty much it then. Unless there's any like last minute finishers that you guys can think of.
No, I think just, get out there and explore, because there's a whole world of wine. There are grapes you've never heard of. And you don't have to be a somm or a wine student. I'm certainly not, but it is such an interesting thing to try all these different grapes and discover what you like. And it's a fascinating experience. So get out to wine country and go out and experience it, because it's so much fun to sit at a vineyard and taste some wines.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Lainey.
Thank you. All right. Have a good weekend. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.